Hello and welcome to another episode of Bi-Weekly Digest with Fibonacci X. Our team meets probably uh, after every couple of weeks. We discuss about recent venture deals, we discuss about trends, funding, and what does it mean for founders for observing the funding market and also for some insights for investors as well, right? So today we have Vatsal and Samir with me. So we'll be discussing, few deals each. So let me begin. So the first deal we are going to talk about is Curebase. Curebase is interesting because it's a company which I have probably tracked since they got their first check, which was even before they opened any clinic. It's based out of Odisha. And they are into rural healthcare to tier three, tier four, not towns, but probably villages, right? And that's an interesting challenge in India, right? We have roughly 6 lakh villages in India. And if you map it on the number of primary health centers we have in India, it's not enough. We don't have enough coverage. If you look at the ratio of MBBS doctors versus the population, it is probably one of the lowest in the middle income countries, right? So those are major challenges. In fact, till about 5, 10 years ago, in some of the district public health centers, we didn't have the facility to deliver babies, right? Or to perform even major surgeries. That has changed after COVID. Especially in North Indian state, we see a lot of focus on setting up at least, major surgeries should be done at least at the district level, if not at the block level, right? So that has changed. But some of the simple things, right, for diagnosis, um, that still remains a challenge. In urban centers, okay, we have apps like Practo. Now, Practo has turned a bit of positive, I think, last year. Now they're planning to go for IPO, right? Practo did 3,500 CR, GMV probably 200 odd CR revenue, and that has become a good story for urban. But for rural, we still have a lot of gap how to provide healthcare access to last mile. So the primary problem is the last mile delivery, right? So that is what they're trying to solve. Their model, to me, if you ask me, still remains questionable. So before this route, they claimed that they have about 150, or I think they planned about 50 centers after Series A. So the model was simple. They rent a place, they set up a basic clinic, and there is a telemedicine device, and there is a person to assist you in case it's a serious problem. And that device is connected to a specialist on the other end, because in rural India, people don't know how to operate smartphones and they may not be comfortable describing their problem. Or they may not know if they want to show, let's say, there's swelling on the leg, they don't know how to position the camera, which button to press, right? How to go about it. So it's an assisted telemedicine. That's their model. So you have a center, you walk in, and there is a person, you sit in front of the device, and in case you need to speak to a specialist, they help you connect you to a specialist through that device, right? Now the challenge for me is that you are taking on too many fixed expenses at the center level. So you have a rental, you have salary which is fixed, and you have other expenses. So to operate even a single center, you have a lot of cash flow which is going out. And as all of us know, that consultation is not a money making machine in healthcare. Consultation, OPD in large hospitals is for funnel creation. The large money is created when you have inpatient care, either through minor surgeries, major surgeries, diagnostic, what else, whatever else you can bundle with that, right? So OPD is always a money losing proposition. Here, even if they're connecting to a specialist, I don't know what the model that probably will be tested at scale once they grow to few hundred centers. Because 50, 60, 100 centers is still pretty early, right? And they have not raised that much money including this round, 21 plus. So I think roughly 35 million they have raised. The previous round was from Alivar, and now this one, other VCs have come in, right? So this kind of problem requires a lot of money. This is also a high mortality space in India, right? So if I remember, Medibuddy, Mayupchar, all these guys tried to solve this, right, but have not successfully solved this problem, right? Some of them, even having raised, let's say, $200 million or 100+ million, have not been able to solve this problem, right? So I remember, if I'm not wrong, Mayupchar was backed by Omidyar and likes of Omidyar, and even Medibuddy had raised from the leading VCs. So this last mile delivery of healthcare outside urban centers is a large problem. Probably somebody has to solve it at the atomic level. Maybe it can be solved by throwing money at it, but I'm not sure. Uh, I mean, so from my side, I will be watching their journey. How does it scale as they go from 100, 200, 300, 500 centers? Probably even outside Odisha. Let's say if they go to other eastern states or if they come to north, how do those centers operate? Do they also start selling pharma to make up for some kind of cash inflow? Because on pharma, you have good margins, right? If you get your own pharma labels, let's say you have your own paracetamol or simple analgesics, right? Uh, but then a lot of companies have tried this, tried to do diagnostic pharma plus teleconsultation plus other in the same center. But then it's too scattered and the focus is not clear and people fail to deliver value. Right? So it's a hard problem which they're trying to solve. The problem is real. If you travel across India, last mile delivery of healthcare is an issue. And it's a high mortality area where people have raised a lot of money and have failed to solve the problem. So I'll be watching their journey closely, how they go about solving this.
Just a follow-up question out of inquisition, that is there any similar model that has successfully worked out in West or also in other countries?
So in West, I mean, US is complicated, but besides that, all major countries are public health systems, right?
Pretty good.
And there it's a very different setup. Um, and they don't have that size of population is not comparable. Second, the geography wise is also they are not comparable, right? Except US is like three times of India's area and one third of India's population, right? That's a very different system, and that system has its own challenges, and we all know it, right? But there is no country of India's size, which has successfully solved, healthcare delivery at last mile. I'm not sure what China has done because we all don't actually know much about China. First, the information is not available. Second is the language barrier, right? Even if I want to know, I'm not sure if the information I'm reading is correct or I'm interpreting it correctly. So China will be something which I would like to learn from how they have solved it. Um, but in India, the challenge is that people don't have the ability to pay even if you bring private healthcare at the last mile. You're talking about a country where per capita is around 2,800, $3,000 per capita, right?
Mm,
So that ability to pay for those services uh,
yes.
is not there. Second, a lot of hospitals, established hospitals, fall into this trap that we will create customer funnel by offering free health camps, etc. in poor neighborhoods. What I have observed is even when people get to know that my sugar is off the chart, they don't care. They don't want to go to the hospital because they know they can't afford. So it doesn't lead to any kind of top of the funnel creation or any kind of significant gain for hospitals. And I'm talking about hospitals backed by private equity guys, right? There are several hospital chains which have been picked up by private equity investors in last, especially post COVID. So it remains a challenge, right? But as we move from, towards a middle income country, probably a lot of these last mile issues we will need to find solution for these last mile issues. Healthcare is one. There are other issues. For example, we have been able to solve banking access through technology, etc. Now, opening a bank account is less of a challenge, right? Aadhaar has solved a lot of problem. UPI has solved a lot of problem. But healthcare, because you still need a personal touch, you need someone to interpret your issue. You need someone to write a prescription. You need someone to diagnose. A lot of these players, including CureBay, they are claiming that we will use AI, imaging, etc., etc. But that's probably more of a just flavor of the season. I don't know how many solutions we'll see actual results coming out. So in West, I don't see a direct comparison which comes to my mind. And let's see. Hopefully, I'm wishing them success, but I think we should probably we can do some more segment in the coming episode about last mile delivery of healthcare. That's a separate thing where we can talk about failures and how much funding has actually gone into this sector.
So let's move on to the next startup. So the next startup we'll be talking about is Euler Motors.
Okay, yeah. So going through the list, I had two companies or startups in mind that really caught my eye, both for bit personal reasons. So Euler Motors recently raised around 73 or $74 million, which is around 638 crores. It is a Series D funding, which means total funding for the company has been around 1,480 odd crores. And the biggest chunk, I think, has been invested by Hero MotoCorp. Around 32.5% of the stake has been taken up by Hero MotoCorp. Interestingly, Euler Motor, what it does is basically uh, it's leading the transformation of commercial electric vehicles in India. They also have passenger vehicles. They focus on three-wheelers right now, but they're also expanding into four-wheelers. For example, Storm EV is their new four-wheeler EV commercial vehicle in the market. It's a very interesting story because coincidentally, last year, me and one of my friend wanted to buy a set of electric autos, passenger vehicles, and rent it out to people because we were noticing that the drivers are willing to pay 300 rupees per day as rent for owning the autos and driving it. And I travel from my home to the office via auto. So I was able to engage with the auto drivers for a good 2 to 3 weeks to understand if we buy electric autos, will they take it up or not? And it was a very interesting conversation with them. Uh, there were some challenges which they noted down. So they told me, ki, Bhaiya, if you give me a CNG auto, I'll probably pay you 10 rupees per day to rent it out. But if you give me electric autos, I don't think I or even my friends would want to rent it out. So the issues that they found at least were that I think mainly four issues were there. One is that there is not a fixed resale value or resale market for electric vehicles in India, especially for three wheelers, because a case that he told me was that he bought an auto in 2018 for almost 2.5 or 2.6 lakh, and the resale value of that around last year was still around 2.3 2.4 lakh. Not a heavy depreciation of second-hand autos in the market. The second-hand prices are still pretty good. And secondly, he said, even if I come into debt and I want to sell it off, I can sell off the CNG and diesel autos. It's difficult to find a buyer who will buy EV auto right now. Some other challenges he's noted down was that the spare parts are not that easy right now to get. If I'm buying an electric vehicle and if something happens, it's costly, even if it comes under warranty, and it takes time to get the spares part. If, for example, Ola scooters, right? If something happened, it took months to come back. So these kind of challenges are something which sets back the market for EV vehicles, especially three wheelers. So he told me I can if I have a CNG and diesel auto, I can go to any mechanic down the road and they will fix it up in a very cheaper manner. So that is second issue that he told me. Third issue is, I think, which we all know, is the patchy infra that we have in terms of electric vehicle charging. So the range, and there's a range anxiety also. For example, if we look at all the autos out there right now, especially passenger autos, it takes 3.5 to 4 hours to fully charge. Sometimes might take 5 hours, and the range is basically between 150 to 180 kilometers. And I'm saying the higher range. So if you charge it up, you can, as a passenger auto, you can do it something in the city. You can work it out for 12 hours, but then if you again go back and charge it up. When it comes to commercial, when I think of commercial vehicles, I think they need to increase their range. For example, the 6C Nexon car which came out, which I think Mahindra's car recently, right, which doubled the capacity from 200 to 400. So right now, before Mahindra's car came out, people were very hesitant to like buy because they could drive the electric vehicles within the city limits. But if I have to go from Baroda or Ahmedabad to Mumbai, I have to take 3 stops or 2 stops and I have to think very carefully. That does not make the transition or the transportation very seamless, right? So the range needs to increase, especially for a commercial vehicle adoption, especially in EV segment, right? So they really need to pump up their range because range anxiety definitely is there if you're targeting commercial vehicles. And if you don't improve that, then maybe it's good enough for within the city limits or intra-city like Baroda and Ahmedabad, which are nearby, but not something for traveling and sending any material or stuff between more than 400 or 500 kilometers. That becomes a challenge. And the last issue he told me was that the battery issues, right? I mean, it's fine. Like you can expect the new tech to have battery issues, but it's the time that takes it to replace it. And especially nowadays when I'm seeing a lot of flooding happening in the cities. Delhi में flooding हुआ है, there's flooding in the Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Baroda itself, right? A little bit of rain and the city floods up. They are scared. There's a perception among people or drivers that if I buy EV vehicles, it there's a high chance that you'll go to waste in the flooding season, which comes maybe just once or twice, 1 or 2 months in a year, but it's a significant perception barrier for them. And that kind of reflects in the sales of Euler Motors. We look at the sales, right? I think in FY21, it was around 73 registered vehicles were there. And this is for commercial. And for FY24, there were 3,700. So it's a very slow moving market. It's a very niche market that they're targeting. However, I can see that this market grows for people or businesses that are buying them for intra-city purposes, be it commercial or be it passenger. But still, the range anxiety and other factors are going to hamper the growth of the market. That is why they're moving into four-wheelers and expanding the range capacity for the vehicles.
Interestingly, Euler Motors is a portfolio company of EV2. And we had done a podcast with Karan, who is the partner at EV2 VC. So that's an interesting coincidence. But besides that, about the resale value, right? What happens in three-wheelers and as well as two-wheelers? See, from the supply side, it's always a opportunistic sale. If I get a good price, I will sell it, right? And from the demand side, you are looking for the best deal.
Mm.
You want surety on the condition of the vehicle, and you are seeking value basically, right? So besides, unless you have a reliable intermediary, which is these reseller platforms which are now coming up and trying to build, it is always going to be a difficult transaction, even for a ICT two-wheeler or a three-wheeler or a CNG two-wheeler or a three-wheeler. Because what do I know? What is the guarantee of the engine? What if something goes wrong in 12 months? So I am just trying to monetize whatever I have. But as a buyer, right, you need someone to guarantee that for next 12 months, 15 months, nothing happens. Like Cars 24 Spinny do for cars. So there are players who are trying to do that now. Once those players are well established, once those testing mechanism and all those things and refurbishing become streamlined, I think these problems will go away, because in few years time there'll be willing sellers who are looking opportunistically, and then there will be willing buyers as well, right?
No, I think it's very tight, closely tied because EV vehicles, especially three-wheelers and four-wheelers, commercial vehicles, are anyways new in the market. So there is not much history of the resale segment out there. Plus the addition of players who companies that are coming up in two and three-wheelers. There was a gap for a few years, just being filled right now. So I completely agree. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as the businesses and these things come into sync, Euler and Motor Corp can benefit from it. But right now it's a very slow growth because there were non-existence of players out there. Yeah.
So next one, I think we can talk about Misfits, right? Misfits was interesting because I've been actually looking at this space for some time now, offline activities, and this basically their the core value proposition is to enable offline clubs around hobbies, interests, etc. Right, so you can go to the platform and you can join a club, or if you get approved, then you can also start a chapter, etc. So if you go to their website, you can see that. So they've not raised much. They've raised probably called it seed funding, like 5 CR from few investors, and probably they're going to refine their app, etc. So and then they will raise more money for awareness and etc. marketing, etc. later. But see, now this is where it comes down to demand, right? Especially after when during COVID we saw this online behavior going into another extreme where people were basically logged into their houses and spending a lot of time online. Post COVID, we saw this demand for seeking offline activities, offline experiences. Travel has seen significant turnaround. All these activities have seen significant interest. So demand is very strong, right? Even if you look at what is happening around sports, not sports tech, but platform which give you access to offline venues, right? The demand is there. If people want to go out, people want to do things, people want to connect with other people who have similar interests. And also, they want to be part of something bigger than themselves, whether it's a club, whether that's a community. That's a very common theme, even with Gen Z and even other generations. That's a common human tendency. That's why we build teams. That's why we build a lot of things around us. Right? We want to be part of something greater than us. Right? And having that built around our interest, that's like icing on the cake. Right? That I'm part of a group which is discussing novels or books, or it's a badminton club, or it's a swimming club. So I see they're hitting the right spot in terms of the demand. I would be looking to how soon. I would just add a caution that they should not try monetizing too early. If they monetize too early, then it's a problem, right? People will not come to the platform. So it has to be fine balance between monetization, building awareness, and also being aware of how much you are burning cash in short term. So this will be completely burned because they are going to spend on updating the app, and then on awareness they will spend more, right? So it's an interesting problem which they're trying to solve. And this need, right? This is not limited to young people only. That's how the TAM expands. You can start with something very small, like clubs around young people, reading, badminton, swimming, cricket league, etc., etc. But if you actually crack the code at atomic level, then you can do for older people, you can do it for professionals, you can do it for other people, right? So that's the beauty. But the positioning and how do they monetize in future, that I will be closely looking and learning from their journey. When it comes to activities, nobody has been able to crack the code. Book My Show, even travel players like Make My Trip, Agoda, all of them have spent money around activities, how to build a aggregator platform or how to become more inclined or go-to place for activities, but nobody has been able to become that. So I would say more players would probably be coming up, right? This will be offline equivalent of what we had this clubhouse in the US, right? Where you could go and talk about, hang out and discuss. This is probably offline clubhouse. Probably I'm correct in saying that because clubhouse initially was built on that, right? Just few guys riff-raffing about, whatever topic they like, and then people drop in and then they join and listen. And I think if they're allowed, they can contribute, right? So this is just an offline version of Clubhouse. Uh, Blitz scaling in this case may not be possible. Blitz scaling in any case now is not possible because money is not cheap. Interest rate scenarios have changed. So you cannot anyways pump that kind of money, which we could probably 10, 15 years back from a VC perspective. But still, let's see how they scale. What is their GTM now?
No, you're absolutely right. Like I remember Clubhouse being such a huge fire for 3 to 4 months. I was there a part of Clubhouse also. I was a user for a few months, but then it died down and they couldn't monetize it. So I don't know if they were even willing to monetize in the first place. But startups were like here right now in this environment where dry powder is hard to come by and disperse. I think, as you said, they need to have a very good strategy to monetize. They can't go very soon. And you're right. No one has cracked it in the social sphere, at least in the offline social sphere. I use District from Zomato if you like know about it, but it's again more like Booking.com rather than what they are doing. Very cool feature, but again, it's as you said, if you want to expand, maybe this kind of model might work out also in the tier one cities, but when you come to tier two and three cities where the actual population lies, like how you going to monetize that? So that challenge lies also in this case. Okay, so I'll take up the next one, and next one is a bit close because it's so the next startup is Alt Carbon. Alt Carbon is one of the most, I think one of the most exciting climate tech stories in South Asia. They raised like $12 million in seed funding, which is the largest for a CDR, as in carbon deposit removal startup in India. And they want to scale enhanced rock weathering mechanism. So what they're doing sounds like they're going to spread crushed basalt, if I'm correct, on farmland, and by adding some rainwater plus CO2 plus some kind of mechanism, they're going to like permanently remove carbon from the soil for next 10,000 years, right? And it's also going to boost the soil health. The interesting part is that it's one of the biggest CDR startup in terms of funding, $12 million, and they have an LOA of almost $1 billion from good companies. Like if I'm correct, Meta and let me just check out the company names, has already landed deals for LOA from Stripes, Frontier, Alphabet, Meta, and a 10,000 ton offtake with MOL Group from Japan. And these are just pilot projects. So interestingly, this is a seed funding which has not been proven till now. It's a concept that is in the place. They're hiring aggressively in the from they're hiring PhDs and other people to come and like make the analysis and make sure that the fundamental project that they have works out. How it will work out in the future, I'm not very sure. It's a very ambitious project. They have LOAs, but for the LOA to materialize into financial revenue, they have to go through the process of R&D and make sure that it works out. They have the resources. It all depends on the execution right now.
Okay. For all these numbers, right? Generally, when I'm looking at sustainability deals about carbon capture and credits, I think a lot of them are currently uh, hazy, based on a lot of assumptions. Right? I think in the coming years it will become clear, like what do these deals amount to. I'm also looking forward to learning more about this. Although I've been looking at speaking to few founders in this network and even with few VCs who are uh, doing more, but I'm still in the learning mode. So um, I don't think I know enough to differentiate, between a good startup focused on, let's say, carbon capture or carbon credit or sustainability. I'm still trying to, understand how does that work and how to translate those numbers into financials. That I'm still figuring out, like what is the right way.
Exactly. That's what the first thought came. He got a bit funding, but I was talking to him recently, and main issue and the problem is that how do you get from an idea with a good funding to execution where you become like a revenue incurring company? And it's still not, I don't think of any big company has cracked this thing till now. They claim to be carbon, like providing carbon removal and issuing carbon credit, but it's such a niche and new place, right? That the R&D is still not completely set in place. The products and services are right now there. It's mostly LOAs or LOIs right now. So even I am not that sure of how they will monetize it. So that's why I'm impressed by how they raise the funding, but I'm not sure how it will perform in the future. Like that's something which even I look forward to and see.
So let's move on to the next startup. So the next startup that we'll be talking about is called Frinks AI. So Frinks AI has raised approximately 5.4 million from prime venture partners Shirate and Navam Capital. So what Frinks AI does is that it helps factories and manufacturing units utilize cameras to enable AI to automatically verify that the products for the assembly of the final product that they're trying to create are defect free. So this system can detect scratches, dents, any incorrect labeling as well, any defects without requiring any human to inspect each item. So also one thing that is good about this is that it is a no-code platform. So manufacturers or factories don't require a tech team to use it. They just need to upload a couple of pictures and set it at the right angle where the manufacturing is happening, and the system learns what they need to look for. So currently they are working across 1,000 production lines, which includes automotive, defense startups, consumer goods, textiles. So one thing that stood out for this brand amongst its competitors is that it's a no-code platform. It's a no-code solution. So most of the other brands that are offering a similar product, not the same product, like Qualitas Technology or Switch On AI or Viz AI Labs, is that they are not so easy to use in comparison to this. So what this does is that by catching these defects early on, this enables company to deliver a better product and avoid, calling back their products due to any XYZ reason. Especially in the automotive industry or on the defense industry, where each part or the better quality of a product really matters. So I think this could be a big thing in the coming years, or as the system becomes more and more efficient in identifying the um, scratches, dents, and any other problem that could lead to a defect in a product. So there are some startups who are doing a similar thing in the US. Some of them being Landing AI, Neurala AI. But in India, I have not come across a startup who is providing a no-code solution and is providing a similar product.
And they're doing it only in the manufacturing factories and segments, or is it also like
Yes.
distribution? Okay. Are they doing it in distribution channels, like for example, a warehouse or a dark store or something like that?
So they're currently doing it just at the manufacturing level.
They could be also look to expand into like utensils, and I don't know how much it's feasible for the company who is gonna. What's the cost of the service? But I know for sure a lot of the products that come, right. India is very how do I say slick with buying with consumers. We are very slick with buying products and then putting something back and giving it back to them. So this can save a lot of money for companies like Amazon, Flipkart. I don't know, all the other companies, if they can, uh, I think structure it around warehouses also, like where small value products or even mid value products and go and come back.
So next one, we are going to talk about Khiladi Pro. So when I read about this startup, I thought it's another sports tech startup which is going to fail and disappoint us after all these startups have gotten funding around coaching and performance analytics, particularly because people thought that it's going to work and uh, you know bowlers, batsmen, tennis players, everybody is going to excel once we give them the stats. And unfortunately, humans don't work that way. Coaching is very complex. It requires role models around you. It requires person to person contact, and that's why even baseball teams and football teams and basketball teams, which are valued multiple times, than any of our IPL teams, still rely on head coaches, assistant coaches. There are people who manage the sprints. There are people who manage other kinds of things within the team. So there is you know 50, 100 people support staff which works with a small team, right? That's because humans still are complex, how to stay motivated and how to stay on track, right? So performance analytics, that has not worked. But Khiladi Pro is interesting. It's applying. I don't know if you've watched Moneyball, which is around baseball, a movie in US. So if you remember a scene where he's speaking to all the scouts who look for baseball players, and that's where we are discussing that this guy has a nice face, he speaks well, he's presentable, etc., etc. So Khiladi Pro is kind of applying some AI to scouting players for teams, right? Again, probably I don't know if it's going to work or not. What I know, technology has a case in sports, but when it comes to individual performance and analytics, there is a lot of human element involved in it. Okay, technology can show you the stats, but when it comes to performing under high pressure situations, you need greater force, greater calling. You have to. So, what is the beauty about sports? All the preparation and hard work has to be done in advance before you step into onto the pitch, whether you're a soccer player, whether you are cricket, which is tough. Okay, it's not about the game. It's about what you do 1 year leading up to that game. And that's when you need humans to interact with you, to speak to you and guide you how to handle your emotions, how to handle your preparedness, what not to do, even simple things like how to stay hydrated and not get injured. That requires coaching, physio, other people around you. Right? So technology has a role, but it is probably still I think, inner quest which needs to be, which comes down to and how competitive you are during off season, how well you are preparing during that off season, right? So technology in terms of performance has not worked, but for a scouting, let's see. I mean, what are you gonna tell the AI, right? What to look for, right? We don't know. Sachin, was a bowler before he became a batsman. So the scout AI will miss him because he was not a good bowler when he started in playing in as a kid in the stadium, right? So how do you account for that? That can be only coach like Achrekar who can spot that this person could actually be a good batsman. So that coach angle will always be there. It can be a assistance like we saw in Moneyball, where you can crack some codes, but ultimately, it's a lot of human element. You see Brad Pitt talking to those players, having one-to-one conversations, even when they are playing in particular positions, particular roles, right? Explaining to them what is your role in the team right now. So similarly for scouting, there is still human element, especially at early stage, right? Um, so I am not sure how scalable is this. I am willing to learn. On the analytics front, sports tech has not worked. All of us know that. It has a limited scope. It works, for example, if you are recording opposition teams' performance, how is a certain player playing, watching it over and over again, watching it in a slow frame, deducing some kind of pattern, etc., etc. Right? Or recording other teams play, how they are practicing, what they are practicing, and analyzing that. So technology has that kind of uh, role, right? But on the performance side also, it will be interesting to see how much coaches are willing to embrace AI, right? Do I let AI pick the bowler for the first inning of a test match? After analyzing, okay, certain player is moving slower than what he usually does, or something is off about his movement. I don't know, right? It will be interesting. We will see that, and also probably there'll be regulations in future where and how you can use AI to call, those plays. That will be interesting. So scouting, there may be some space, but there's a lot of human touch here. You can't do that. You can't do that. Even some of the sports analytics companies have been backed by, leading cricketers of Indian team. Uh, and those startups have also not worked that well. Right? So there's a lot of human element. Like I said, the pain and the preparation is not on the game day. It is probably starts many, many years ago before the game day. And that's where human part will continue to stay relevant even during scouting process. I gave you the example of many batsmen who were probably scouts will overlook them because they were average bowlers and then they became bats or they became something else. Or somebody was a wrestler and then went and played American football. I was just reading about another football player who was actually did not play any football till college. He was a wrestler, and then he was spotted by some coach, and then he became an offensive guard for I think New England Patriots or some other team. So how is AI going to catch that? That's what I'm saying. But again, there could be some limited scope, some role it could play. It could become a co-pilot. It could become a co-pilot. It could enhance my analysis, which I'm trying to do on data points. All those things. But again, I think all those things are gut feeling and experience, etc.
No, absolutely. Like you give the example of footballers, right? A lot of footballers in the academy of 14 to 16 years old, especially European footballers, they are might be playing left back, goalkeeper, and by the time they reach the adult actual professional career life, they are playing some completely different role. A goalkeeper is playing a forward because the development happens over a period of time. Now, just when you scout, right? uh, it's a tool that you're using. That means there has to be a element of training the coaches over here, getting used to that tool. And a lot of the football clubs nowadays, there's a one head coach which you get to know, like Joseph Mourinho, Sir Alex Ferguson. They are supported by individual position coaches. For forward, there is a striker coach, midfielder coach. These coaches then have a conditioner, someone who conditions the body, and then a technical helper who helps with the videos and analysis. That technical person is taught these kind of tools to them. So the head coach does not go into that. Even while doing coaching over here, if they're aiming for coaches of the team, it will be difficult. They'll have a technical person who will learn this thing and take out the review and the analysis and then give it to the head coach, who will then help out the players. But with Moneyball, for example, it there was a backset of data. It was used in a wider league. I don't know if Khiladi Pro is being used that because when they're trying to analyze through whatever analytics they have, video analysis is the, I think that's what they're doing, right? They're doing video analysis. That means you need to have enough data points or enough number of videos of that player to come to a conclusion that, hey, that player might be good enough. From a coaching perspective, as you said, it's very subjective. A really defined coach can look maybe one or two, three sessions and realize this player can actually be a good one or not based on their experience of history. So even for this AI to become very accurately, where you can depend on it accurately, it needs to go through a lot of training. It's like an LLM. How will you know which data points are good enough, as you said, right? It needs to go through those millions of data points to even come to a subjective accuracy for that sport.
So, Cleevo. This I found interesting. I want to talk about this because the solution is not that I have not looked at pitches of people who are trying to do the same thing, people who are trying to make. So, again, just taking a step back. We don't realize that we have a lot of chemicals in our house, right? Which we use for cleaning and which we use for laundry, which we use for surface cleaning, which we use in our toilets and in washrooms and other things, disinfectants, etc., etc. Right? That's the main issue, right? How to replace them with sustainable chemicals. That's what they're trying to solve. So I have been actually met two, three founders who are trying to solve this with herbal products and other products. But what they are trying to do is basically give you this in the chemicals in the concentrate form. You mix it in water, and this cleaning liquid or whatever is ready. Right? So I found that interesting, right? Again, from logistics angle, it also makes a lot of sense because the space you require for storage and the way it suddenly comes down, so that part is also the shelf space you require, etc. That goes down. Right? So let's see. I think distribution is important for them, right? Uh, there is definitely a move towards sustainable products overall. Even let's say we look at just excluding this house care product. If we look at the personal care products, also people tend to buy those these days, right? Which are sustainable. So it will be interesting, but distribution, if they can crack that, I will be happy. Also, I will be looking from the investment side. This is probably an open play for a M&A or a acquisition by a strategic player, right? So that will also be interesting if they can gain. I mean, probably beyond VC, they are just easy to spot by somebody like Unilever or somebody else who's looking at household care products as a category. So I mean that will be my future exit plan if I was their investor, right? Because ultimately, like I said, distribution, you need access. This who has distribution? Distribution is with FMCG giants. So if your product is successful, you tie up with them and then you crack that. Because D2C, you can only reach urban customers, which is a very small TAM. You want to reach across India, take that positioning of sustainable, you need to partner with them. So that will be probably a future strategic path for them. Probably the bigger players and the legacy player will be already observing, or probably see, is this not replicable? That's also a concern for me. Is this something protected under IP? What contact and concentrates which they are adding to water? Is this not something which a Tide can replicate, or a Surf Excel can replicate, or somebody else, right? Or a Harpic can replicate that? Uh, I don't know. I am sure they are already testing these kind of products, right? So yeah, distribution is the challenge. Product as such, I uh, find a clear communication which can reach the customer. I don't find a challenge there. Product side, there's no problem. Customer side, right now, I think beyond urban, they will need access to this distribution network. That will be my suggestion to them. Also, this is like floor cleaner and kitchen cleaner. I mean, besides kitchen purpose cleaner and floor cleaner, the velocity is not that much when you compare to personal care products. It's probably once a month or twice a month single purchase item, right? So again, how do you stay on top, right? How do you repeat purchase will be something I'll be looking for if I was, in their place. How do I retain my customer after the first purchase, second purchase, third purchase, right? Again, inventory and working capital, if I can take care of that so that I'm actually available when they're looking to purchase the second time. Otherwise, they'll just go back to whatever they were doing earlier. So those that working capital and all these things, if they try to expand too much, that's also a challenge for them. Right? Most companies don't understand that for new products, the loyalty is very low. I tried your product once, I like it. I go to wherever I go to buy it from, offline, online. Don't find your product once, twice. I'm moving on to something else. And the repeat purchase goes down, and then that's when the LTV per customer also goes down. So, thank you everyone for joining this episode. We will add some interesting links in the description. The podcast episodes which I referred to, Vatsal can add that. And in the future, we'll try to also, try to do more in addition to bi-weekly. Maybe we want to delve, let's say, into specific themes like last mile healthcare delivery in India. That's one example we discussed. Also, we could invite other founders, other guests, in addition to three of us, where they come and talk about it, right? So please support us. Please follow us. Please like and please subscribe and hit the bell icon, which I recently learned what works on YouTube, right? Because that is the closest you can be to owning an audience. YouTube does not let you own an audience, right? But as soon as you hit the bell icon, you know what we have uploaded. So please support us and help us in growing this community. And we will connect with you in the coming weeks again. Thank you.